Hey everybody, hope you're doing great today. In this video I'm going to show you the process that I use for gluing plants on rocks. So some of the plants that we put in our aquariums, they need to be glued in place. You can't just drop them in, otherwise they'll float around. So these particular plants that I'm referring to are ones that you do want to secure either on a rock or some other decoration so that way it's not floating around. Now there are some plants that are okay to float around depending on the type of tank you have set up, depending on the type of fish you have. Assuming no heavy filtration, you don't have any canister filters in there, you're worried about the plants getting sucked into the intake or any hang on the back filter, same type of thing when you've got an intake tube. You don't want those plants getting sucked in. But with these types of plants, something like Anubias, Java fern, Java moss, you want those plants to stay in one place. You don't want them necessarily floating around. So there's a couple different ways to secure them to rock. Tying plant to rock using fishing line. My personal preference is to use glue. You can use the super glue or an equivalent super glue gel. In my opinion, the gel works better. It's easier to apply. It doesn't pour all over the place. It won't make a whole lot of mess in the gel-based format versus if you're getting the liquid super glue, that can flow pretty fast and it might not stick to the place that you want it to stick. I use this Gorilla super glue gel, and the gel, like I mentioned, is easier to apply. It sticks where you want it to stick. The one nice thing about super glue is that it can cure in tanks. Normally when I apply this, I'll apply it to the rock or to the stone, whatever I'm putting it on, and then give it a few minutes just to set. And then the rest of the time it can cure in the water. It's not going to cause any toxicity in the water, and it won't cause any long-term harm to your fish or any other aquatic life you have in the tank. So in this case, I want to add some Java moss to my tank upstairs, to my main display tank. I figured that by adding some Java moss, some of the fish are breeding in there. I want to try and encourage some more microorganisms to grow in there. That way the baby fish have something to eat. Right now there's not a lot of hiding places for baby fish. I've only had one fish that actually successfully survived in that tank. I know my Julidachromis are actually breeding and they do it on a regular basis. You'll see the little fry floating around, but unfortunately they get picked off by the other bigger fish in the tank. So we'll see if this experiment works. Once the Java moss kind of grows out, gives the fry a little more hiding place. It also provides a food source for some microorganisms that might benefit the fry, and we'll see if they're able to survive to adulthood. For this, I'm going to use a dragon rock, a dragon stone that I have. I'm going to glue the Java fern onto it, and then I'll put that directly into the tank. So let's go take a look. So here's my dragon stone. I got my Java moss here, and I'm going to use as a tool, I'm going to use a toothpick, and that way it's less likely to get on my fingers, make a mess that way. So the directions on the bottle are to shake vigorously, shake the super glue gel vigorously, and then squeeze it out. Let's see, it's coming out there. I think that's enough for my application. So I've been growing this Java moss in a little container in the back over there, basically trying to increase the volume so I have more for different tanks. But as you can see, I've placed the gel over here. I'm just going to put this on it and then tap it down gently. Use the toothpick too to help keep the glue off your fingers. And I will trim this up a little bit too before I put it in the tank. What I've seen other people do is they'll chop this up into fine pieces, put a bunch of glue around there, and then it kind of grows a little differently. That's an option depending on what you want to do, how you want it to look. You can do that. In this case, I'm just doing it initially as a test. We'll see how it goes. So I really just want to get it on the rock and be secured there. And then I'm going to put it in the tank here shortly. So I did trim some of the excess off on this. It's set for about 3-4 minutes so far, so I think it's fine to put in the tank. I'm going to put it in the tank over there, and then just let it grow. So I put it in that particular place because that's where I've noticed the gelated chromis have been staking out their place before. That's where I've noticed the fry in and around that little orange cave. So hopefully it grows out there. It's close to the filter, so I'm probably gonna have to trim it back just so it doesn't get into the intakes as it grows. But I think it's a good placement for now. I can always change it. Since it's glued onto the rock, it's not something that's rooting into the sand. Then it's pretty easy to move, pick up and move it wherever I want it to move. Wherever it needs to be moved to if I need to move it. So with the remainder of that Java moss that I trimmed off, I'm going to stick it back in the basement over there in that little grow box that I have. Nice thing about Java moss, it's easy to trim. Any excess cuttings you have, you put it in another tank. In my case, I'm going to put it back in the grow box, grow more for other tanks that I plan to have in the future. It's a great plant, sucks up a lot of nitrates, provides some cover for fry as well too, as well as encourages the microorganisms to grow in there as well that could help feed the fry. That gluing process that I showed, you can also use it with various anubias plants. You can also use it with Java fern. So it's pretty easy to use. Anything that you want to fix to a rock that doesn't need to be rooted in your sand, soil, gravel, whatever you have. That's the process I would recommend using. Again, it's just a super glue gel. It applies easy. It's not as messy as the liquid stuff, and it sets and cures pretty quick and doesn't cause any harm to your tank. So please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.